Hello and welcome to another video from oorail. In this video, we're going to take a quick look at some of the printable kits that are available. Now, I'm actually going to be looking at two printable kits over the next couple of days, but I just wanted to give you a kind of a quick overview of what we were doing and kind of what's involved. So, there are two companies that I found that are pretty good and have some very high quality kits. First one is Smart Models. It's smartmodels.co.uk, and the guy Brian who runs this particular site is a real nice guy, and he has some top quality products. So one of the things we'll be building from Brian's collection at smartmodels.co.uk is Rail 07, which is an engine shed with a water tower kit. Now I'll explain to you in a minute, but to give you an idea, this is what the end product will look like, and as you can see there, it has 100 steps, so it's quite involved, but it is a very high quality product when it's done. I've already built one of these, and now that I've kind of mastered it, I'll be building a second one just to do it justice, because it's a very nice model. And basically the premise of these things is that you basically print this out, and then you glue it to either light card, medium card, or heavy card. And kind of things for like windows and stuff like that, you print out to clear film, such as that's used for overhead projectors. And usually you need just a handful of small tools to get it done. And they usually come very well documented. Now, I won't lie to you, these things are quite time consuming. Now, once you've built it once, it's a lot easier, but when you look at the instructions, it can be a bit daunting. But trust me, once you get into it, it's not quite as hard. It's just really time consuming. So something like this, you can expect to sit down and maybe get it done in an afternoon or something like that, but it's not something that you're going to get done real quick. So the other company that sells stuff is scalescenes.com. And scalescenes.com have a range of railway as well as town scenes, as well as some kind of scratch building sheets. And scale scenes are also a very high quality product. With scale scenes, you get to select the kind of brick texture that you want to match your layout, and then you can go ahead and print out the different ones. So just like with Smart Models, scale scenes, once you buy this from them, you can print it out as many times as you want, and again, you can assemble it any way that you feel like it. And one of the things I'm going to be looking at in today's video is the arched bridge. It's one of their easier projects, and you can see here it's not quite as involved as the engine shed, but here you can see it only has 21 steps and has some optional options as well. Now when you print these out, you're going to need to print them out onto A4 paper. Now I'm here in the States, and A4 paper is really hard to get your hands on, and if you can get it, it's usually expensive, and where I live I'd have to get it shipped in, and getting paper shipped probably isn't the smartest thing with the shipping costs. So what I've used is, this works for the Smart Models ones as well, I've used what's called legal paper. Now legal paper is about the same width as letter, which is a little bit wider than A4, and it is a good bit longer. So you can see there's about an inch or two gap at the bottom, and that's because the paper is a bit longer. Now one of the most important thing to do when you print these out is you make sure that you print them out at 100% scale. These have been specifically designed to be the correct scale for double O gauge. If you're printing them out for N gauge or HO gauge, they do have a kind of a percentage setting on the website and the FAQs that they tell you what you can set it to. So for example, N gauge, it will be smaller than 100%, and that will print out correctly for you. So one of the downsides to using legal paper is legal paper is extremely thin, so it's not quite as thick as regular paper. I think normal paper that I use in the laser printer, like for the instructions here, likewise the instructions are also in A4, but you can scale these down, it's not important. But the paper is about I think like 100 grams or something like that, 120 grams. Whereas the paper for this and the legal is only about 70, so it's a good bit lighter. So that's you just have to be a little bit careful when you're applying the glue if you're using the legal paper. Now if you're in the UK and you're using A4, it shouldn't be a problem unless you're using a lightweight paper. And again, you can use a lightweight paper, but you just have to make sure that you use a little bit less glue so it doesn't bleed through. So when you get these kits, some of them have options. So for example, this one has the option of doing a single or double width arch, as well as a single or double width top sort of thing, or deck. So you basically get, see here, it'll tell you that you can cut here for a single width deck, or do the full thing for the double width. So what you'll end up doing is you'll end up printing these out. Now I used a HP LaserJet color, I think it's a 3800 DTM, and basically these will print out in a pretty quality there. And the brick I'm using here is their dark brown brick, as that fits most of the stuff on my layout and the theme. But basically what you'll get is you'll get bits that you'll be told to glue to heavy card. This one is also glued to heavy card. Some of them are print only, and so on. And some of them they'll tell you, in some of the buildings they'll ask you to print it to various different things, and you can see that you get optional graffiti as well. So you won't always need to print every single page out. So I'd suggest for the first one, print it all out just so you can see what you're doing. And then if you have to print subsequent ones, you can just be a little selective with the pages, save your toner or ink. And if you don't have access to a printer, here in the States there's places like Kinko's and Staples where you can just send it to them and they'll print it up for you. And it might cost you a few cents or a few pence in the UK. So you can, even if you don't have a high quality printer, if you only need a couple of them printed out, that's one way to go. You'll need some tools and some glue. So here I'm using this Loctite gel control, and I'm also using this washable Elmer's school glue. You'll also need a good scissors, so I went out and bought a new one. And you'll need some card. Now I'm using two types of card. This is a poster board. I'm using this in place of the heavy card, and while heavy card is a little bit thicker than poster board, and poster board is probably closer to medium card in the UK, I had a hard time tracking down something as thick here in the States for the heavy card, and using things like cardboard boxes were just a little bit too thick. So I think this will work okay, and I haven't had any troubles with it yet, so hopefully that'll work out pretty well. And then for the medium card, just because there's different thickness, I'm just using standard cardstock, and this stuff is dirt cheap. You can buy it, I think, like $5 or $6 for like 200 or 300 sheets. So it's pretty cheap. So some of the other tools that you might need are tweezers, and this is just to kind of apply glue and manipulate some of the fiddlier bits. And you'll also need a ruler. I'd suggest getting a ruler that has both the inches as well as the centimeter, millimeter, metric system, just so you can measure things off. And that's about it. The other thing you may need is an X-Acto knife, or some kind of crafts knife. I'm using an X-Acto knife, but I don't actually need it for this arch building, so I've kind of kept it away because I didn't want the kids getting access to it or me leaving it out by mistake. So one of the other things you could do when you're done building this is you might want to weather it, and you can use weathering powders like you do for locomotives, or if you don't want to waste the weathering powders on this, you can use kind of pastels or craft pastels to basically go off and weather the thing yourself. And you can also get pencils. They have craft pencils, pastel pencils, mainly for oil pastels and that kind of thing. But that kind of artist pen or pencil or whatnot is also good for weathering. So we'll show you that towards the end of the video. So in this video, I'll show you what I've done so far. For the heavy card, I've cut out the pieces, cut out the card, and you'll see here that I've actually cut it down into a more manageable piece. So rather than gluing the whole page to a card and then cutting the card out, what I actually did was I cut the pieces out first and then just glued the larger sections to the card. It makes it a little bit easier to glue it. You don't use as much glue and so on. And again, here you can see I've glued some of the stuff that needed to be glued to medium card, and then finally I glued this to the heavy card as well. So the next thing I'm going to do, and this will take me a few minutes, is I'm going to go and I'm going to cut all this stuff out, and I'm going to start following the instructions. And I do have some pieces that were on kind of left over here as print only, and these get applied later with glue. You can see here you got pre-1950s, 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, 80s, 1990s, and 2000s. So you get various different eras for the kind of billboards that can go on the side of the arch bridge. And of course we have some signs here as well along the top that are typical. So I'm probably going to be using the 70s and 80s section here because that's more applicable to the layout. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get started on this, and I'm not going to go and show you guys each step, because if I do that, this video is going to end up being about 6 hours long. So rather than going through each step one by one, I'm going to stop and show you the progress as I go along. So for example, once I get the thing built to a certain point, I'll take a video, give you a quick update, and then I'll also show you the end product and how to do the weathering. Now, one of the things that I'm doing with this particular arch bridge is actually going in a corner of the layout, and it's going to be surrounded by some of the walls, the retaining walls that I also have from scale scenes. So because of that, the wing walls on this particular bridge aren't really suitable for what I'm doing. So I may or may not add the wing walls. I'm going to just wait and see how that goes. So you'll see though that it's possible to leave out some of the steps if you don't want to build them or you don't need them. So I'm going to get working on this, and we'll update the video shortly. Okay, so here we have the final product. This took a couple hours to build. I did end up having to use the X-Acto knife to cut some of the pieces, and I also ended up having to use a combination of super glue and the Elmer's glue stick to glue some of the pieces together. The poster board wasn't quite thick enough for the design, so some of the elements, particularly around the top part of the arched bridge here, weren't quite as thick, but I was able to muddle through that. And I also used the pastel, oil pastel here. This is a standard oil pastel, it's just in charcoal black. And I also used this charcoal, I think this is actually a pastel pencil. So I use this carbon black pastel pencil. So I use the oil pastel and the pastel pencil to basically essentially weather some of the stuff in the bridge. The trickiest parts were the sign here on the top. It was kind of tricky to get that cut out even with the X-Acto knife. Some of the stuff worked out really well. Here you can see I weathered the sign. This is just glued on, and then you just take the oil pastel and just rub it just once, and then use your finger to smooth it out, or you could use the pencil. If I show you on the inside here, you can see that there's some signs, and I weathered those signs as well, basically because this is kind of going to be maybe a disused bridge or something like that. And then on the other side I used the older 1950 signs, and if you actually look here, what I did was I tore up one of the signs and then glued it on the underneath. So if I spin it around, you can see there what I did. It's got, I think, a total of 3 posters. There's one from the 1950s, and then there's one from the 1950s with the Purcell, I think, sitting on top of it, and then there's a later 1970s one kind of pulled back. So it's kind of like the thing hadn't been used for a while. Now you will notice that This end here is still hollow, and the reason for that is this normally has parapet walls that come down the side here, or wing walls that come down the side. I'm actually using the wing walls. I've got more of the retaining walls to go along this wall here and along the other side wall. So when this is in position, those walls are actually going to intercept with the side here, so I don't actually need the wing walls. So I didn't build those. And so that's basically it. I'll show you the thing from a top angle here. It looks pretty nice and pretty realistic looking, especially with the weathering. So what I'm going to do next is just show you where it's going to go in position, and basically what I'm going to do is put that up against the wall here, like so. And we're going to have, like I said, one wall coming on here, and then we'll have the wall going here over to the side. So if I move the camera around, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. So here we're going to have the wall continuing on along this wall here, and then from here back to the other wall we'll have it at an angle. And what I have is I've got some disused track here. So we're going to put that like so in at an angle, and I've got this old DMU here. It's been derelict. I'll set this back on the track. I'm just gonna get it on the track properly. Now it's bouncing because it's Alright. So there you have it. That's basically the plan. I'll put some ballast around it, and it'll basically look like a disused, kind of derelict locomotive sitting off an old siding, and I think that will tie up that side pretty well. I also have this West Country Battle of Britain class I could put in there, but I think the DMU looks a little bit better. Alright, so that's basically the plan with this section. So I'm going to continue this evening and basically work on the other walls. So hopefully tomorrow and in time for Sunday I'll have some of these walls done for a good layout update. And there you have it.